What's up guys, my name's Brandon and today we're going to be running a speed test between the brand new iPod Touch 7th generation and the 2016 iPhone 7. So if you guys watched my video review on the iPod Touch 7th generation yesterday, you heard me mention that it just makes much more sense to buy an iPhone 7 in 2019 versus the iPod Touch 7th generation given the price. And in this video we're going to see just how much faster, if at all, the 2016 iPhone 7 is compared to the 2019 iPod Touch. Alright, so when it comes to the specs, these two are nearly identical inside. So both devices have the same chipset and the same RAM. So that's the A10 Fusion Chip, and both have 2 GB of RAM. Both of these are the 32 GB models, and both are also running the latest version of iOS 12.3.1. All right, so we're gonna start things off with a boot up test. So we're gonna shut both of these guys down, and then we're gonna boot them up and see which one boots up faster. All right, so now they are both shut down. So let's go ahead and power them up in 3, 2, 1. Press at the exact same time. And you'll notice that we do have the home button on top of the iPod Touch, but on the side of the iPhone 7. So let's go ahead and see which one boots up faster. And it's looking like, oh, we had a black screen there on the iPhone 7. Let's see which one boots up first. And the iPod Touch beat the iPhone 7 in the boot up test. Now, when it comes to getting inside the device, obviously it's going to be much quicker on the iPhone 7 because we have Touch ID, but the iPod Touch 7th generation does not have Touch ID or Face ID. So the unlocking process is always going to be much quicker on the iPhone 7. All right, so now let's go ahead and open up some applications at the same time and see which one gets into the application first. So we're just going to confirm that we don't have anything running. You can see nothing running on either device. And we're going to start it off with Asphalt 9 in 3, 2, 1. Press at the same time there. Let's go ahead and see which one gets to the play screen first. And it looks like the iPhone 7 does have the advantage here. And yes, the iPhone 7 won. Still waiting on the iPod Touch 7. Still waiting. And there we go. The iPod Touch finally does load up. So a clear win there for the iPhone 7. Let's go into Fortnite in 3, 2, 1. This will be a really interesting one to see because this is the first iPod Touch that supports Fortnite, or that Fortnite supports. And man, these do take a little while to load up. I'm used to the iPhone XS Max and the S10 and all the fast phones, but you can see here the iPhone 7 and the iPod Touch 7 are both struggling to load up Fortnite here. And there we go, we just got here on the iPhone 7, so definitely another win for the iPhone 7 over the iPod Touch 7. Still waiting on the iPod Touch. You can see here probably at least a 10-second difference. Still waiting. Still waiting. And there we go, finally. So definitely a big win there once again for the iPhone 7. Let's go ahead into PUBG. Press at the same time, but we have stuff on the screen from the iPods first. And once again, we have an early lead for the iPhone 7 already on the checking for update screen. Just now got to it on the iPod Touch. And there we go, we loaded up first on the iPhone 7, still waiting on the iPod Touch 7th generation. There we go, finally. So this is once again proving why it just makes more sense to buy the iPhone 7 in 2019. Has so many more features, better display, better cameras, better performance, better everything for literally like the same price. All right, so now let's go ahead and go into Twitter in 3, 2, 1. See which one loads up some social media applications first. And we're also going to go into tweets here as well. So the iPhone 7 once again did beat the iPod Touch. So we're going to go into a tweet here, and we're going to pull up the share sheet on each to see which one pulls up the share sheet faster in 3, 2, 1. And it looked like the iPod Touch there actually pulled up the share sheet before the iPhone 7. Now let's go ahead and open up YouTube. We're not logged in inside of YouTube, but we'll see which one loads up first. And the iPhone 7 did barely win there over the iPod Touch 7. Not a big difference there. Let's go ahead to Amazon. This should also not be a big difference at all. Once again, the iPhone did win. We do have this for some reason on the iPhone, but we didn't get that on the iPod. And then let's go ahead and do ESPN. And still waiting for content to load. Loaded first on the iPhone 7, still waiting on the iPod Touch. So pretty slow when it comes to web-based content, it seems, for the iPod Touch 7th generation, or it's looking like the app may be bugging out here. It's not even loading properly, and it looks like it's frozen maybe. Definitely a big concern there for the iPod Touch 7. Not sure what's going on here. We'll try to load that up again. We'll actually just run that back again. Let's close it both out and then go into ESPN once again at the same time. And the iPhone 7 once again, you can see there we had a little relaunch on the iPod Touch 7. Still waiting on it. So the iPod Touch 7 is really slow with web-based content, it seems. And then just for fun, let's try some stock applications like the App Store. And that was literally the exact same time for both. Let's go ahead and try settings. That looked like maybe the iPod Touch first. So it seems that the iPhone 7 was a better performer in pretty much every application, especially when it comes to games. You're gonna notice a big difference. The iPhone 7 definitely loads up the games and plays games in general much better than the iPod Touch 7th generation. So now we're gonna test that RAM. Both devices do have 2 GB of RAM, but we're gonna see if we have to relaunch any of these applications. So let's go ahead and do Asphalt. So we do have to reload Asphalt there. Let's go ahead and try Fortnite. And it looks like Fortnite may not have to reload here on the iPod Touch, but it does on the iPhone. Wow, pretty impressive there for the iPod Touch. Let's go ahead and try PUBG. PUBG, no relaunch for either. Let's go into Twitter. No relaunch there. YouTube. No relaunch. So it's looking like we only had 1 relaunch, and that was on the iPhone. So actually some pretty impressive RAM memory there for the iPod Touch. I was definitely not expecting that. And now let's go ahead and run an AnTuTu benchmark test. I want to see which one of these finishes up this test first, and also which one gets a better score when it comes to an AnTuTu benchmark test. All right, so we're going to go ahead and run this test at the exact same time, and I will be back once it finishes up. So you can see on the iPod Touch, we got a 154,203, and on the iPhone 7, we got a 144,325. So for some reason, the iPod Touch actually out benchmarked the iPhone 7, but that's kind of confusing because as you guys just saw in the speed test, the iPhone 7 was definitely faster than the iPod Touch in pretty much every category. The only real advantage that I saw was that the iPod Touch booted up faster than the iPhone 7. That was really the only noticeable change. So you can see that the iPod Touch has a higher CPU, a higher UX, and a higher memory score, but the GPU, the iPhone 7 actually has a much higher score, about 9,000 higher on the GPU than the iPod Touch does. So that proves once again that the iPhone 7 will definitely perform better when it comes to gaming. So I do also want to run a Safari test, but before we do that, I just want to do a quick scroll through my Twitter timeline because I did notice that this was really laggy on the iPod Touch 7th generation. It was something I really didn't like. Same with the 6th generation, but let's see which one actually is smoother with scrolling on something like your Twitter timeline. So we're just going to keep scrolling here, and you can see the iPhone 7 is definitely a lot more fluid when it comes to scrolling. You can see the iPod Touch just stutters a lot more than the iPhone 7 does. So we're going to wait for this to load and then go back down. So it's actually ending there. So for some reason it's ending on the iPod Touch there, but we'll just go back to the top and do it one more time so you can see what I'm talking about. It's a lot more fluid and a lot faster on the iPhone 7. So that was pretty interesting. I did want to check that out. Now let's go ahead and do a Safari test real quick. All right, so we're going to go to ESPN.com at the same time here in 3, 2, 1. And it looked like the iPod Touch actually beat the iPhone 7 there. So we're going to go to apple.com on both in 3, 2, 1. Press at the same time there, and they loaded up instantly pretty much on both devices at the same time. So we're going to try another site here. So we're going to go to dailyiFix.com in 3, 2, 1. Press at the same time here. Let's see which one loads up this web page first, and it looks like the iPhone 7 is fully loaded. We're still waiting on the iPod Touch, and there we go. So the iPhone 7 definitely faster there. So we're going to go to Product Hunt in 3, 2, 1. And it looked like the iPod Touch, yes, the iPod Touch loaded up producthunt.com before the iPhone 7 did. So some really interesting results here. I wouldn't really say that there's a big difference in the Safari speeds between these two. It's pretty much neck and neck for every website, but I would give the edge there to the iPod Touch. So anyways, guys, there you have it. That is the speed test between the iPhone 7 and the iPod Touch 7th generation. Again, the iPod Touch was just released in 2019 and the iPhone 7 was released back in 2016, but they do have pretty much the same internal specs. But when it comes to performance, especially gaming, I would definitely recommend the iPhone 7 over the iPod Touch 7th generation. And if you can get an iPhone 7 Plus instead of the iPhone 7, I would definitely recommend the iPhone 7 Plus over the iPhone 7. You may even get better performance over there, and you'll have a much bigger display for gaming. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about this speed test down in the comment section below. Let me know which one of these guys you have, and if you want to see a speed test with the iPod Touch 7th generation and maybe the iPhone SE. If you have any video suggestions for a speed test, let me know down in the comment section below. And if you guys did enjoy the video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Also make sure to subscribe for a lot more content. I have a lot of iOS 13 stuff coming out next week. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.